The secret to speed is timing, not effort. If we can help swimmers optimize their timing, we can help them swim faster in any event without changing any other skills. If freestylers want to go fast, they need to be able to use the right timing to create that speed. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. In freestyle, swimmers can change their speed without changing their effort simply by changing their timing. How does it work? Well, every time a swimmer takes a stroke, they are creating propulsion. It's the left arm, it's the right arm. Now, if swimmers have gaps in propulsion, so it's left arm, gap, right arm, they're not going to be able to create as much speed because there's a gap in propulsion rather than continuous propulsion. Well, that can be a disadvantage if swimmers want to go really fast. It's actually an advantage over longer distances because it allows swimmers to create a more efficient stroke. If they have a little bit of recovery in between applications of propulsion, they're going to be able to maintain their speed for longer. And if they want to swim faster, they don't have to change how they're applying propulsion. They just have to shrink the gaps in propulsion, and therefore they're going to be creating more propulsion per unit time, which means they're going to go faster. So a key skill in freestyle is optimizing those gaps in propulsion depending on what they're trying to achieve. Longer distances, slower speeds, they're going to be bigger gaps. Shorter distances, faster speeds, those gaps are going to shrink, and as we'll see, some swimmers are actually able to overlap those propulsive phases, and that allows them to achieve a ton of speed. So how do swimmers control the gaps in propulsion? It's all about arm timing. When they want bigger gaps, they're going to use more and more of a catch-up style stroke. And when they want shorter gaps, they're going to use an arm timing where the arms are moving more in opposition. It's an important skill for all swimmers, regardless of the events that they swim, because distance swimmers need to sprint at some point in their races, and most sprinters are going to be doing some sort of lower speed training, and they need to be able to choose and use an optimal stroke in that context as well. With that in mind, let's see what it looks like in elite athletes to get a better understanding of what needs to happen. And when you know what needs to happen, it's a lot easier to make it happen. So the swimmer here is going to be demonstrating gaps in propulsion with the arms. And so that's referred to often as catch-up timing. And so even if the arms aren't literally catching up in the front, if there's a gap, that's a catch-up type coordination pattern. So if we watch here, the right arm is going to start applying pressure and creating propulsion right about there. You can see that the elbow really starts to move back there. And so creating propulsion, now his left hand has entered, but it's not doing anything in terms of creating propulsion. So we still have one arm here, and then that arm is going to finish. He's pretty much exited here. There's no more propulsion on that right side. And as you can see, the left arm has not done anything to start getting into the position to create propulsion, let alone actually creating propulsion. So we have no propulsion at this point in the upper body. So now the arm is getting set, and now the left arm is set up to create propulsion. Right here, starts to apply pressure. You can see that the elbow starts to move back. That's typically a pretty good sign. Swimmers are going to start applying pressure and creating propulsion. The right arm is entered. Again, it's not doing anything from a propulsive standpoint yet. So left arm is pulling, left arm is pulling, left arm is out. And again, check out that right arm. Nothing has happened yet in terms of setting up the stroke, let alone creating propulsion. So same thing we saw earlier, now creating propulsion. And so from right about here, this is where the swimmer is going to stop creating propulsion. So from here until there's that gap in propulsion. So no propulsion is being created with the upper body. And so again, now we've got the other arm, and so the right arm is finished in there. So from there until probably right about there, it's a little bit harder to see when they're on their other side. That's that gap in propulsion. So each stroke from left arm to right arm to left arm, there is a gap. And so swimmers, if they're not applying pressure to the water, they're not creating propulsion with the upper body, they will slow down at that point. And so even if they have a really powerful pull, even if they're moving a ton of water, it's going to be surge, slow, surge, slow, surge, slow. And so if this swimmer wanted to go faster, he wouldn't necessarily have to apply more pressure or create more propulsion per stroke. He just gets rid of those gaps, and the average propulsion is going to go up because we don't have periods where there's no propulsion. Now, of course, this is a longer event. I think this is a 400 IM, the end of it. And so Removing those gaps is very challenging from a metabolic standpoint, from a fitness standpoint. And at this point, he doesn't have the ability to generate that much energy to efficiently remove those gaps. So this is the strategy that will allow him to create the most speed because it only demands so much energy. And so that's the trade-off. It's not so much that one timing creates more speed, so it's better. It's about which timing can create the most speed for the most amount of time. So in this case, over longer distances, swimmers are going to have gaps because they can still create a lot of speed, but it's a sustainable speed. Now, when we take a look at sprinters, and I'm going to differentiate between male and female sprinters because it tends to change just a little bit, we're going to move into more of an oppositional timing. And so the arms are moving more or less in opposition. So if we see here on the right side, she's still applying pressure, she's still holding water, and then she's finished the stroke right about there. You can see the hand disappear, and that disappears behind her hip, so it probably hasn't quite left the water yet. And so right there, stops creating propulsion, but if you watch the left arm, she's starting to apply pressure. And the difference between the sprinters and the previous example, she's not going to take the time to get into this big setup of the stroke. She's going to get right into it. And so right when she starts applying pressure, you can even see her head, her upper body start to surge forward a little bit. And so she's already creating propulsion at this point. And so again, right when that hand exits, she begins creating propulsion. And so the gap is going to be, if not zero, very, very close to zero. And so she's always creating propulsion with the arms in this setup. And so that allows her to create a higher speed because there's no point where she's slowing down significantly. If we watch again on this side, you can see the hand exits and she's already applying pressures down on that right side right when the hand exits on the left. And so again, she's going to be able to create more speed relative to her own abilities by using this strategy relative to a more catch-up strategy. And again, she may be creating the same amount of propulsion per pull as compared to if she was using a catch-up stroke. The difference is the average speed is going to be faster because those propulsive gaps have been eliminated. And so swimmers can create more speed simply by removing propulsive gaps rather than simply applying more pressure to the water. And of course, if they want to go really fast, they can do both. And so those are two different levers that swimmers can pull to create speed. It's not just how much propulsion they create per pull, it's the timing of the pulls that allows them to maximize the amount of propulsion per unit time. The more they can do that, the faster they are going to be able to go. So at the extreme, we have a catch-up coordination. And again, the example I showed was in a race. If he was swimming at slower speeds in practice, in an aerobic set or even warm-up, the gaps are probably going to be even bigger. There's going to be more time between those propulsive phases. And so it's a continuum. It's not an either or. The closer you get to zero gaps, we kind of have an oppositional stroke. And so in that case, full catch-up stroke where swimmers are literally touching their hands in the front would be an example of a massive gap in propulsion between arms because one arm is literally doing nothing while the other arm goes through the entire stroke cycle. And so, of course, a stroke can exist anywhere on that continuum. Now, once swimmers can achieve speeds that typically are only seen in elite males, the arms can actually start to overlap. So instead of having one arm finish propulsion and the other arm immediately starts creating propulsion, what we have is that there's an overlap. And so both arms are creating propulsion at the same time. Now, both these swimmers are going to be demonstrating this skill. And so if you watch a swimmer in the white cap in the foreground, we're going to see his left arm is still creating propulsion. He's still in the middle of his pull, and that right arm has already dropped down and he's applying pressure to the water already. And you can see his hand is still fairly deep on that left side. And so he's going to be overlapping. And what that's called in the research, it's called superposition. So instead of opposition, it's superposition. So the propulsive cycle of one arm is superimposed on the other. And again, not only have we removed the gaps, we've actually overlapped them. So not only have we removed the gaps, we've actually overlapped them. So swimmers are going to be able to create even more propulsion per unit time. And of course, that means more speed. So again, we'll watch here, the left arm is finishing, the right arm is already applying pressure. He's moving down into the stroke and the left arm is still underwater. And then if we watch on the other side, you can see his hand enters there. He's still in the meat of the pull on the right side. He's driving down on the left. He's getting into it and he's still got his arm underwater on the right side. And so when swimmers want to go really fast, they actually have to overlap the timing in order to make that happen. Now, if we watch a swimmer on the right here, with the black cap, we're going to see same thing. Left arm is still well under the water, right arm is driving down, and he's making that happen. Right arm here, still way under the water, still holding water, still holding water, still holding water, and then the left arm has already moved well into the propulsive cycle. So again, both of these swimmers are demonstrating this skill because it almost has to happen in order to achieve really, really high speeds at an elite level. It's not just that these swimmers can create a ton of propulsion, hold a ton of water with their stroke. They absolutely can do that. They also have to master the timing of applying propulsion and organizing the stroke in order to maximize the amount of speed that they can create. For more on how to help swimmers learn to control and change their timing, check out the video below.